A huge thanks to Storyblocks for sponsoring this video. Every year, I share the ad creative formats that actually convert on Meta ads. And let me tell you, 2025 is already shaping up to be a very interesting year. Some of the classics are still crushing, but there's a whole new wave of new ad formats that are outperforming almost everything else. And here's the thing. Get a little closer. Format matters, but messaging is more important than ever. The right messaging can make or break an ad creative, even in some cases if the design isn't that well executed. That's why for each of these formats, I'm also going to be breaking down the messaging strategies and extra little bits that I've seen really work well with the brands that I work on. So if you're stuck wondering which ad creative to test next or how to nail the messaging in your ad creative, be sure to stick around for all 10 of these formats. This video is going to save you hours of guesswork and show you how to make high converting ads fast, even if you're new to Meta ads or if you're on a low budget. Also for fun, let me know in the comments what your product or service is, or even your brand, and I will personally suggest an ad format for you to test. Okay, let's dive into it. Now, the first one was actually the top performing ad creative for all of 2024, and we spent well over $2 million on this one ad. Now, the grid style ad is nothing new. In fact, it's been used for decades, even during the print era. However, this ad type is incredibly psychologically pleasing. In fact, our brains love this ad because it completes a subconscious loop for us. Essentially, with a grid format, our eyes are always trailing from left to right and top to bottom. This ad format is great for brands that have bundles, have multiple products, or even have different SKUs, aka different colors. Sometimes, in fact, it actually just helps to show the same product multiple times. Now, I will say the top performing ad creative for this grid style format did have a messaging element as well, which is really great because we were able to test out multiple different messaging styles to really see what worked. And unfortunately, I can't show you the actual ad, NDAs, but here were essentially the messaging strategies that we were able to try and ultimately what worked best. So imagine this ad tested with these different messaging points. Now, which one do you think performed the best? Now, I will say here, this one at the end, the purely value-based messaging, was ultimately the one that started performing first, but it was actually the 10-minute exercise routine that ended up crushing it and beating out all other types of messaging. Now, when we drilled down on this, what we actually realized is this was the most scalable type of messaging that we had tested. The others were looking at a specific age range and gender. The other was featuring a specific social media platform, RIP. The more you know, right? All right, number two, this one's actually new for this year, but it's what people in the industry are lovingly calling EGC, or employee-generated content. Now, a lot of us in the industry know about founders ads, right? But what about other employees? Now, this is actually something that I saw Jenny Kane doing over the last few years that seemed to really work well for them. But my favorite way to do this right now is actually with warehouse content. Hollow Socks, Overnight Oats, and Happy Mammoth absolutely crush this type of format. And something that I note too is that it works really well for both images and video. And I know what you're thinking, what if I don't have access to a warehouse to film these types of videos? Well, that's where Storyblocks comes in. Let's actually search for warehouses on Storyblocks. Boom. You can easily use these as a background or even an individual asset. Now, some businesses get a little anxious because they think that they need to be in the physical location to make this type of content. But to be honest, I've actually witnessed the green screen effect having a really similar vibe to actually being in the physical location. In fact, here's a really great example of this. Now, when I want to test out this kind of stuff with the brands that I work with, I use Storyblocks because I find that the content combines best with UGC and other forms of content that's commonly used in Meta Ads Creative for both video and images. They have a curated content library that has everything you need in one place with over 1 million 4K and HD footage, templates, music, sound effects, images, and more. And yes, it is completely royalty-free, even for ads. And you don't have to plan a photo shoot, fumble with AI solutions, more on that in a bit, or get a creator to make this type of content for you. It is literally instantaneous, which just makes teams so much more agile. To get started with unlimited stock media downloads at one set price, head to storyblocks.com/Dara Denney or click the link in the description. Now for number three, I'm actually going to be super prescriptive because I actually found that this specific type of founders ad was working really well across several accounts. So yes, it is a lo-fi or UGC style founders ad ad, so it's from the founder, but we have a TikTok response bubble that is handling a common objection. Now, in many cases, this could be a price point, but if you keep on coming up against a certain frequently asked question or a certain thing that your customers or people who want to become your customers seem to be anxious about pre-purchase, make content about that from the founder, honestly speaking to that common objection. Now, I'd say that this is really great for founders that want to try this type of content but don't know where to start. Start with this one. And here's a list of common objections you can try. And number 4, creator content. Do you notice how I'm not using the term UGC anymore? Here's the thing, creator content is absolutely still moving the needle in 2025, but I've really reframed how I am looking at this type of content. Instead of working with people who do UGC, I am really aiming to work with creators, because those who can show up authentically on camera and really develop that type of connection with the audience, AKA real creators, these are the people that I find absolutely create top converting ads. Now, the specific type of creator content that I saw work this last year absolutely is more in the single testimonial vertical instead of having compilations, even though I did see those work sometimes. Most of the time it is coming from a single creator. Interestingly, the type of messaging that I've seen really work, number 1, across many accounts, I find that opening a hookup with a reaction sort of like these is something that actually really resonates with people. Other things that work are using trigger words in the hooks. So things like this. And as always, the good old problem solution type of ad creative absolutely still works when paired with the right creator. I would say that problem solution creator content is like the bread and butter of ad creative content. For brands that are spending more than 300 to 500K per month on meta ads, you're really gonna need to know how to nail this type of content, because I don't actually see anything else scaling up accounts in the same way as authentic creator content. But if you're looking for a new fun way to do this, I do see this type of tweet or social media framing like this. You can always change the elements around a little bit. Absolutely does work and look unique. And number 5, another one of the new ones, AI ads. Here's the thing, I was a little resistant to using a ton of AI in the ad creation process, but I'm using it quite a bit now, and it is absolutely working. In fact, if you're interested in me doing a deep dive on AI ads, let me know, because I honestly don't think that what I'm gonna explain here is gonna be even scratching the surface of what is possible here. So here's the way that I think about AI content right now in 2025. I really like to categorize it into 5 big buckets. Number 1 is going to include AI features that are on existing platforms that people are already using. So think like your Canva, your Premiere Pro, maybe even your CapCut. Brands and designers and video editors are starting to lean into these type of features a lot. I even know that I am leaning into it quite a bit, especially for video edits on this channel. And heck, there's even Gen AI capabilities directly inside of Meta Ads Manager. Now, the second bucket is more for images. So it's more of your mid-journey style images. These can absolutely work, but they definitely have a certain look to them. And I know some brands, just based on their own image alone, aren't willing to go there quite yet. And then there's the deepfake style ads, like what ArcAds does essentially. And I will say, I have been testing this out a lot recently, and I'm really excited for it. In the same way that I love using Storyblocks to be able to test out ideas and theories instantaneously, I am now able to do that quite a bit with ArcAds, which is really exciting. Now, the fourth bucket is actually just pertaining to voiceovers. So with something like 11 ads. Now, why this is really interesting to me is because it essentially enables brands and businesses to compile all of the content that they already have and create new scripts and storylines by using voiceover that is AI generated. And then the fifth bucket is what I like to call end-to-end AI services. These are essentially businesses like Airpost that are enabled to create hundreds of ads with just a click of a button, essentially automatically. Of course, there's a lot more to it than that, but essentially, if you were to sign up for a service like that, you would be able to very quickly, very easily, and quite cheaply get a ton of creative. And that's absolutely where the industry is going to be headed. But let's take a step back, because like I said, AI could really take up an entire video. Again, let me know. Let's ease back into this. For number 6 is text-based ads. Now, the cool thing about this is I really like to think about it as just like text-heavy ads. So this can be text-only ads like in images, or it can be more video-based. I've absolutely seen both types of these ad creatives crush it. And I'd say on the video side, a lot of times this is something that I see brands having already done on TikTok or on Reels. And it's like, yeah, like let's put some ad spend behind that and try it. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring up this ad creative too is because this is something that I actually tested during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and it annihilated it. This is actually something that I saw a lot of brands doing, including Ripley Radler, and their team told me that it absolutely crushed for them. And I saw very similar results, which is really exciting. I'm actually currently working on trying this for a non-sale period, but this is definitely an easy one to do during a sale period, which I'm excited about. Number 7, don't be mad at me. Dynamic product ads, DBA, or catalog ads. So when I was doing research for this video so that I could give you actual ad creative that I see working and converting today in 2025 instead of just what I think works, in several accounts I kept on running into the scenario where catalog ads were actually the top performers. Whoops. It doesn't make for amazing and great content, but if I'm being totally honest, a lot of people aren't utilizing their catalog ads to the fullest advantage. So if you're interested in doing a big deep dive on that, I have a very big video that I did with Dan Pantello earlier last year that a lot of you really loved, that really does a deep dive on different DPA and catalog ad strategies and the different ways that these ads can actually show up in slightly different formats. And I'll say the teaser here is that catalog ads run on a different algorithm, which I am very, very interested in. So for nearly any brand out there, especially if you have multiple SKUs and multiple products, you absolutely need to make sure that you are doing that type of ad format justice. And number 8, negative marketing ads. So this one is actually more of a messaging strategy in itself, right? Now, there are several formats that I've seen work pretty well. There are the regular negative reviews. I've seen the 0 or 1 out of 5-star ads crush it on a few accounts, which is really cool. But I also think just leaning into more negative messaging within your creator content is absolutely something that I would test in your variations, especially using more of those negative or hard-hitting trigger words. Think words like regret, embarrassed, hate. Those are 3 that I have personally seen work over the last few months. So those could be really easy wins for you. And number 5, ugly ads. By the way, let me know in the comments if you guys signed up for Barry's course. I will absolutely be attending alongside you guys. I am so excited to learn more from him. He actually used to be my boss, which is pretty cool. But the reason why I really wanted to bring up this specific type of ad format is because there are several different ways that you can do ugly ads, number 1. But also this is actually something that Meta has been talking more about, how this is one of their top performing types of Reels ads. They call it lo-fi content, but I do think it's really interesting that the platform and even bigger brands are starting to wise up and be like, wow, yeah, like this actually crushes, and it's absolutely something that brands should be doing. And the way that I like to think about ugly ads, it's absolutely more of a state of mind than it is a specific format. And the way that I like to get people like geared up to think about this type of ad creative is in a few ways. So first one is, what if I challenged you right now to make an ad creative within 5 minutes? What would that ad creative look like? Another really great exercise you can do with your teams if you want to get them to start thinking more in this vein is actually to have them call their mom, their family member, their girlfriend, their whatever, their best friend, and try to get them to sell something to them. Of course, I immediately think of that Wolf of Wall Street scene, but what I actually mean is think about a product or a service that you really loved and simply just talk to your significant other or your close family person about it, and think about the things that you are bringing up when you are trying to emphasize what a great experience it was or how much benefit you got from it. But I know that this is just a YouTube video. A ton of you aren't necessarily going to try those exercises, even though I know they're really valuable. I think only the serious ones will. So if you're curious about what ugly ads do tend to look like, of course we have the Post-it note ad, still crushes, still see it work, but also one shot, one take videos. So essentially just, take your phone and film an ad within a few seconds, 30 seconds, just yap, see what happens. Again, I think this is where the actual getting on the phone with a person that you're close to and talking about a product, that can really help. That's essentially what that type of ad is. And then there are, of course, the POV shots. So instead of doing like a yap, this is like, you know, from the perspective of you. So I think a lot of times like people's mind jump to the unboxing. It's not necessarily that, it's more the product in action. And then of course, another classic ugly ad style are these nostalgia graphics, much like these. Essentially for ugly ads, you just have to think how to communicate as authentically as possible and what that potentially looks like. And number 10, to round us out, I want to talk about my POV on features callouts ads, on us versus thems, on headline ads, testimonials, and before and afters. To be honest, all of these formats are still absolutely worth testing in 2025. But I won't lie, most of the top performers that I've seen again and again over the last few months are things that I already mentioned in this video. But every once in a while, there is a huge banger there within one of these classic ad formats. And I'd say too, especially if you are a newer brand or a brand on a budget or a brand that is just coming to market, a lot of times, for instance, I'll see the us versus them be the first ad that really crushes it for that type of business. Same thing with the features benefit call out style ads. And another thing to mention here too is I've predicted that creative volume is going to be something that's really top of mind for advertisers this year. And Ash actually had an amazing tweet about this today, where he talked about how many ad creatives they made in 2024 and also the percentage of those that were top performers. And it was 9%, which really shows, hey, you know, the more ad creatives that you put out there, the more chance that you give for something to really resonate, the more times you're gonna win. But I do know that there's a huge debate about quality versus quantity. And I do believe that there is a world where you can increase quantity without sacrificing as much on quality because of the rise of AI. And if you know your customer really well and you never stop the customer research journey, then creating ad creative around those desires, those things that really psychologically tick within all of us, then I think volume is not going to be a problem for you, and getting more of those winners is inevitable. And the final ad creative that I want to talk about, this is actually an extra one, a bonus one, if you will, but something that I've been thinking about over the last few weeks, especially with this TikTok ban looming. Maybe TikTok is no longer around when this video is being published, my goodness, is this idea around brandformance, which is something that my colleagues at BMG 360 actually talked about when we did a talk at Meta recently. Now, something that my good friend Nikki Henning and colleague talked about is actually them starting to put ad spend behind creative that was doing really well for them on Reels or organic. And I think that, you know, if you're looking at all these ad creative formats and you're a little lost and you're a little confused about organic versus paid ads and like the real difference there, I think it is still, especially in 2025, really worth putting some ad spend behind those creatives that are working for you on organic. And again, this is something that I've talked about in a few other videos, but when I was at the Meta Agency Summit late last year, the number one thing that they talked about was authenticity in content and creative. AI was actually the second most discussed topic, which is still a lot, but I really do think that as much as we have this push for things that seem manufactured or AI driven, what we actually all want as an industry is more of that authenticity. And I find that oftentimes that authenticity really does start on the organic level. And that's it. Thank you so much for staying to the end. That means like you're a real one. So please like and subscribe. Those small actions really do help me out. And I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Love you. Bye.